How are we going, folks? Welcome back to the Nightmare Cabin. And we are doing a book review tonight. Slightly overdue, I know, as usual, but here we are. So we're going to be talking about Last Rites by Ozzy Osbourne. Uh, so, yeah, it's this basically documents the last years of Ozzy's life. It's well known that he was fighting, well, turns out various illnesses. It seems like one thing leads to another, and the whole thing just kind of snowballs. And then, yeah, it leads up to the farewell concert in Birmingham, and then he suddenly died 2 weeks after that concert, as we all know. And the last chapter of this book is him reflecting on that concert. So the concert had been and gone at this point. And yeah, he's reflecting on it at the end. So this was, written right up to the last minute, basically. It's a good read. It's an entertaining read, very much in the same style, and very much a sequel, a carry-on, really, of the first autobiography he wrote, which I've got somewhere, but I cannot find. I Am Ozzy. Which I was a bit with that book, I've got to admit. I felt with that book that it was kind of written for people that watched Loose Women and liked Ozzy Osbourne, the crazy guy that's married to Sharon Osbourne, who turns up on Graham Norton and talk shows and acts like the bumbling drunk. It was for people that weren't into the music, basically. It was interesting hearing about the problem with it was I'd kind of read it all before in other books, and I felt like the story had been captured better. And what you normally find, and it weren't so much that book. Once you read a couple of autobiographies, you tend to notice patterns with them. Because let's face it, they're all written by ghostwriters. They're basically just a really long interview, and the person just patches it up. But anyway, all my aunts liked it, so. But this is pretty much written like that. The way he phrases certain things and the way certain things. So I guess he did have a lot to do with it. And there's a lot of recaps of what happens in the first book as well, which I'm guessing it's pretty much written. It's assuming you haven't. It's best to read the first book and then read this, but it is kind of assuming that you haven't. So maybe you don't have to read it. I don't know. I don't know why you would be interested in someone and then read the second and last of their autobiographies. Anyway, so with all that out of the way, it basically starts off with him. Basically, he's announcing his retirement. He's doing the No More Tours tour, and he says about how he falls off the wagon, which he gives one amusing story that he was talking to Elton John, and Elton John was really hitting it hard at the end. Do you remember when he did that world tour? That there's like 300 shows. He's still gigging after that farewell tour that ended 2 years ago, by the way. But he said that Elton John had done 48 shows in a row, no breaks. And apparently at one point he was doing a Las Vegas residency and then flying to different countries to do other shows and then flying back to carry on the Vegas residency. And he said that he was taking this steroid whenever he felt like he was struggling, like a steroid for his voice. And he was like, you got to wait until you're struggling, like you're really, then 2 drops on your tongue. When you're struggling, 2 drops. Ozzy got this steroid and was doing 6 drops on his tongue regardless. So he basically became like addicted to steroids, and then the roid rage that came with it. It's full of funny stories like that. When he finishes the Black Sabbath farewell tour, he went through a midlife crisis and bought a sports car and started having an affair and stuff like that. And then basically there's a few things that goes on, but with the quad accident that he had ages ago, there was things like that had started to creep up on it. He had problems with his neck that was it was like a callback of that accident. I think he'd had surgery on his neck, and as he'd got older, the plates in his neck started playing his neck up, and then he fell over again in the middle of the night. He got up in the middle of the night, not looking where he was going, and fell over again, and it felt like he couldn't move his neck. And long story short, he gets railroaded into having an operation that he didn't need, and he ends up worse than what he was beforehand. And if you watch that documentary, Jack Osbourne rightfully points out, like, before the operation, he's sitting up in bed and he was like nodding along to music, messing around, and you can clearly see his neck's moving, and he's, you know, he's playing around in front of the camera, and he's all right, and he has this operation, and all of a sudden he can't move. It's like he was worse after the operation than he was. So that railroads into certain things. Then he has different therapies to kind of get back to where he was, and then he's taking this medicine, but then this medicine's causing this problem. So then they take another medicine to counteract the problem this medicine's causing. Then there's blood clots, and then he has to take medicines for the blood clots, but the medicine for the blood clots is affecting this medicine, so it's not working anymore. And it basically just, you know, if you've got an elderly relative, you've kind of been here before, you know, different circumstances probably, but you see how it goes, and then basically it's like the medication killed him more quicker than the actual problems he had. So it's familiar territory if you have been there. It is very sad, and it kind of, you know, for the way his life ended though, like you couldn't really ask for more. Like he was at the top of his career. I mean, during the time where he was basically like, right, touring's just done, it's not happening. So he puts that energy into recording 2 new albums, Ordinary Man and Patient Number 9, which if you saw my retrospectives, I was a bit meh on those albums. It did make me want to re-listen to them again. I did feel bad when I was reading them. When I was reading what he says about those albums. This is the thing as well. He goes into more detail about the last 2 albums he did with Andrew Wood. I think he's the guy's name. He goes into more detail with them than he goes in some of his other albums in his original book. And that was kind of what my problem was with the original book, was that I'm just looking this up. Andrew Wood, American musician. No, it's coming up with the guy from Mother Love Bone. Ozzy Osbourne. I'll look that up anyway. But yeah, so what you normally find with these autobiographies is that they go right into detail with their childhood and them growing up, and then they kind of get to the bit what you're interested in, be it, you know, whoever it is, be it they're in a band or they're a race car driver or whatever it is. And it seems like they put so much detail into the childhood that they kind of run out of room for the rest of their life. And you normally find, especially with musicians' autobiographies, is they go right into detail about the debut album and then just skip over the rest of the back catalogue. And that's, you know, you could be just as interested about that as any other part of their back catalogue. What is this guy's name? I was going to say Andrew Wood, but it's not. Andrew Watman? Andrew Watt, right, okay. Yeah, that was what bothered me really about that, because I was, you know, as much as Ozzy Osbourne's a character and who we all know and love, I want to know about the music, you know. That's what really why I am a fan of him, you know. But you know, yeah, that was my problem with the first one. Basically, it just felt like it was for people that watch talk shows, not for people that are actually fans of his music, I found. But yeah, this basically documents that last period of his life. It is a bit, you know, it's sad to read at times, but it's entertaining all the way through. There is some good rock stories in there as well, some funny stories about different people he'd worked with over the years. So it is an entertaining read. Stick it on your Christmas list, or if you're thinking of buying it for someone for Christmas, then yeah, you can't go wrong with it. It's it's worth a read. I suppose it is. I suppose I did like it better than the first one. If you are a Black Sabbath fan, though, I'll go through. I found Geezer Butler's book to be better if you're more interested about the band and the music. Tony Iommi's one's pretty good as well, but it is quite dry. But if you ever watch an interview of Tony Iommi, he's a man of few words, to be fair. But if you are right into the Sabbath as a band and the music, I recommend this book by Martin Popoff, Doom Let Loose. And this is like a vision, as well as a it goes right into detail. But you got loads of artwork, posters, like every other page is. So it's kind of like a. Let's get some good live shots. And I think it goes through the albums as well, if I remember correctly. I'm going through here. There's loads of live shots, all the album artwork, single artwork, and it goes through all the different lineups of the band as well. So it goes through like the Tony Martin era. Another book that's good as well is Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath by Joel McIver. But yeah, my favourite book on Black Sabbath is this one. And I highly recommend this, especially if you're looking for presents for people for Christmas coming up. And yeah, that's about it really. I enjoyed it. And yeah, it's sad, but the silver lining is that he couldn't have ended anything better because he ticked all the boxes at the end. Did one final gig, got everyone together. Even though it was just a couple of songs, he got the original Black Sabbath lineup to do that one final show in Birmingham. He said goodbye. It's becoming a cliche now, but it's true. You know, the guy literally attended his own funeral in retrospect, and he's gone out on top. And everyone, he'll go down in history forever. You know, you can't ask for better than that. It is kind of annoying though, because it feels like what happened with him could have been avoided. And it's the health industry, man. Be it America or here, there's too many people involved that just will just send you on your way. It doesn't seem like either system that you look at, it just looks like they're just trying to pass you along to the next one, to the next person. You know, you're a can to be kicked down the road rather than just be sat down, listened to, concentrated on, and dealt with in a way that suits you, that what's best for you. You know, the way they just railroaded him into this operation, and then the aftermath. I mean, the surgeon that did that, I hope Sharon Osbourne sues him back to the Stone Age, basically, because I think he's got a lot to answer for, that guy. So there you go. But anyway, Ozzy Osbourne, Last Rites. Yeah, pick it up. It's there's worse things you can get, especially with Christmas around the corner. There you go, lads. Right, thanks a lot, everyone. I'll see you soon.